Tetairoa McMillan out of Arizona is our wide receiver one for the 2025 NFL Draft. And on today's episode, we're going to debate and discuss the top landing spots for him when the draft kicks off. This and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an offensive draft analyst with the Bleach Report. That's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He is the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. We got a fun one for you guys. We're going to talk about the top landing spots for some of our wide receiver one, Tetairoa McMillan out of Arizona. We're going to talk about why Braden Swenson, the LSU pass rusher that isn't talked about enough, why he is going to be a draft steal for someone next week when the 2025 NFL Draft kicks off. And Shemar Stewart, is he truly a top 20 prospect? We're going to get into all of that right now. Keith, Tetairoa McMillan, 6'4", 6'5", 215 or so. When I say a guy that's positional, versatile, he wins in the middle of the field, he separates at the top of his routes, big catch radius, can work back shoulder fades, 50-50 balls, can make plays after the catch. And you hear those things, Keith. What is the top landing spots for a guy like that at the receiver position in the 2025 NFL Draft?
Yeah, it depends on how bought in you are to T-Mac, right? Because I think it's a situation where it seems like people either really love him, they kind of
hate him.
Yeah, is one of the two, right? And if you're in the love category, he can go as high as 4 to New England, right? You say, hey, Drake May needs a big target, he's a big body wide receiver, a true number one with upside to be a true X wide receiver, right? He can go as high as New England. But then I think if you look at the hate him side of it, right? The kind of like, we're not 100% sure. That's the people that may have him falling in the Seattle range, right? Like he's closer to 20 than he is to top 5 pick. So I think, but just looking overall, I'll say I think I look at multiple teams. You look at New England, could they use a quarterback? Where would Jacksonville fall? Not a quarterback, I'm sorry, a wide receiver. Where would Jacksonville fall in the wide receiver conversation? Is that possible, right? Do they skip defensive line, O-line, and try to give Trevor Lawrence another big body wide receiver? Liam Cohen is coming from Tampa Bay, where they had Mike Evans, right? He understands the importance of size at the wide receiver position. They drafted Brian Thomas. Do you get him a young running mate, to go opposite of him? So you have New England, Jacksonville. Vegas is another, like, I think all of these teams, to be honest, New England, Jacksonville, Las Vegas, they could use a wide receiver. No more Devontae Adams, right? And then Brock Bowers, but you need a guy. They don't have dudes at the wide receiver position. The New York Jets, can you pair somebody up with Garrett Wilson? Yes, you can. The Carolina Panthers, can they use a young wide receiver? Of course they can. The New Orleans Saints. The Saints have so much stuff going on right now. You know what? I was going to say Tetairoa McMillan to the Saints. The Saints got bigger problems. They got big. What they say, they have bigger fish to fry out there. So we need to skip T-Mac because they just need to figure out the whole. They just look yourself in the mirror. Look yourself in the mirror and figure it out. So I go, and that was maybe 5 teams in the top 10 that I just listed, not including Dallas and teams like that right outside of the top 10.
No, and I think, when you brought up, Jacksonville, I was thinking about that as a dark horse spot for him because, I've been saying it for years. You go back to Trevor Lawrence's best years at Clemson, he had big receivers. Like, He had big body guys that can make plays at the catch point, that can dunk on you, that can box you out at the catch point. Having Brian Thomas Jr., I know they can have Gabe Davis and things of that nature, but Gabe Davis is not a long-term option. And Buffalo fans will tell you that he wasn't a number 2 option for them. Like they didn't really like him as the wide receiver 2. You know what I mean?
Except for when I tweeted that out, DP Bills Mafia got mad at me.
Yeah, they got on your head for that, Keith. Mind you, a couple years later, there's the guy that they liked at the time is now in Jacksonville. The guy that you talked about got paid by the same team. So, and listen, revisionist history, I guess, behind side is 2020, and you were right. They should have listened. But no, I think that Jacksonville should kind of look into it if they And I think that's what you talk about, Keith, is the fact that the pendulum for Tetairoa McMillan, and dare I say, it's somewhat, to me, it feels like prospect fatigue. Because in the summer, Keith, here's my thing. There's no way you watch tape on him in the summer and then watch tape after the season and say, well, these are two totally different guys. Like, you can't tell me that. Like, you can't be like, well, he doesn't separate well. When you were tweeting about him in the summer, did he not separate the same to you? Like, did he change his separation mechanic? No, he didn't. Like, he still does the same things. Now, I can say this with him, and I think I put it in my Scott report. I want to see him come off the ball with more urgency. Like, sell that vertical stem a little more violent and intentional at times. Like, sometimes he does have he's got that Luka Doncic. So, like, it's just like slow play you, and then it's a sudden step back. And it's like, well, separation, I'm open, step back three. Like, I want to see him just play a little bit more urgently, but at the end of the day, and use his hands better and press. But the things that people complain about with T-Mac, a good coach is like, okay, let's put some emphasis on these minute details to playing wide receiver so you can really hit your ceiling. And here's my thing. People who hate him, if you hate him, why didn't you hate Drake London? Like, they're very similar, like extremely similar to me. Like, Drake London was not not a robust athlete. Like, he was not a tier athlete.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, from a route running perspective, I like T-Mac better. I do. I think he's more detailed. I think he sinks in and out of his breaks. But where you left with T-Mac is with that conversation, right? And I think I tweeted this out a couple of days ago, was like this situation, the Drake London versus Garrett Wilson, reminds me of the T-Mac and Matthew Golden, right? Like, it's kind of the same thing, to where it comes down to almost like, what do you prefer? But I agree, DP, with you with the T-Mac and Drake London. Like, why was it? And that's been my head scratching thing. And I've talked about it with the quarterbacks, right? But it applies to a lot of positions in this draft. Like, how did we as a draft community say, sign me up for Drake London, but then we hate T-Mac, right? It's been quite a few positions that it's been head scratching for me. Like, I'm trying to understand.
I don't understand it either.
Why is it so much different?
Especially after seeing Drake London finally get a quarterback. And whether it was Kirk Cousins, when Kirk Cousins was healthy and playing well last year, and then when Michael Penix Jr. came in, and it was like, okay, this is the Drake London that we all wanted to see in Atlanta. He was just kind of hamstrung by quarterback play. So when I think about, like, just top fits, like I said, the Jacksonville is a dark horse for me. I can see, like, New England to me should still be considering him. I know that with the addition of Stephon Diggs and them believing that even at 31 coming off the ACL, he's going to be able to be Stephon Diggs from last year for CJ Stroud, for Drake May. And if so, that's a good hit. And then you hope that his tutelage of Javon Baker and Jalen Polk helps elevate those young guys, and Kayshon Boutte. And because people don't know, Drake May and Kayshon Boutte had some nice chemistry down the back stretch of last year. So Kayshon Boutte still being a guy in that receiving room. So I can see them not going. I think Carolina, I think they go edge, and I wouldn't be mad at them for doing it. But I think what T-Mac brings fits Bryce. He wins in the middle of the field. He wins in the short to intermediate area. He gets you yards after catch. Now, the only thing with that is, okay, will it be a little redundant? Because that's how they use Thielen. That's how they use Coker. You know what I mean? Like, it might be a little redundant, but at the same time, for me, I was like, Bryce has to develop, because it's crazy enough. It's always the thing with Bama quarterbacks. They never really had the big body receivers. So those trust throws, those 50-50 balls, those back shoulders, and they did have to work on that a lot. They had guys that separated and ran fast. It was like, well, I don't have to throw the back shoulder. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, stuff like that. So I think if he can develop that back shoulder with T-Mac, like, man, like, that's going to be big for him and for that offense in the red zone. We know T-Mac can make those plays. But I think my ideal landing spot, no lie, Keith, is Dallas. I want him with CeeDee Lamb, with Dak. We're both Dak Prescott fans on this pod. Like, I want Dak to have help. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care what quarterback it is. I love Lamar. I love Pat Mahomes. Love Josh Allen. How many of those guys would be viewed the same playing in Dallas with the star on their helmet, with Jerry Jones just messing up the roster year in and year out? Like, who's going to be successful in that? Give T-Mac. If he falls, I want Dallas to run that card up, man. I think him, Ferguson at tight end, CeeDee Lamb, they like to play him in the slot and move him around. get you a running back, third round, fourth round, or whatever you're gonna do, and really help Dak Prescott out. I think that's probably my ideal landing spot for Tetairoa McMillan rather, is the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I agree with that. With DP, we talked about the top 5, top 10 slots. It just depends, right? If you like T-Mac, you love him or you hate him, one way. But I do believe he's a first-round prospect regardless. But let's talk about this, man. Braden Swenson. Who is that? The edge rusher from LSU. And we're going to talk about why he could be the biggest steal of the NFL draft. We're going to talk about that coming up next.
Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Visit upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com. That's Upwork.com to join right now and post your job for free and to connect with top talent and grow your business today. The biggest steal in the 2025 NFL draft, especially at the edge rush position, Braden Swenson, 6'4", 255 pounds, 33 3/8 on the arm, Keith. This is a guy that you talked about multiple times on this pod, and I felt like he still feels like he's like really under the radar in this draft class. I know it's a deep edge group, don't get me wrong, but when I watched the tape on this guy, I think he's probably going to be back into the second round. Like I think he should be a mid-day 2 pick at worst. I feel like this is a guy that knows. One thing I appreciate with him, Keith, is that he's a controlled rusher. Like, you know how some guys get off the ball, they're super explosive, and they run themselves out of the play because they're just like a bat out of hell. Like, they're just going full speed. Like, he tempos and varies his rushes very well. Like, I really appreciate that with Braden, where it's like I'm watching him against tackles, and the tackles don't really know what he's about to do. They're just like, they're getting in their drop, and they're just waiting. And next thing you know, it's just like sudden speed to power into a rip. Now he's inside leverage. He won inside leverage, and he's right in the face of your quarterback. This guy, to me, and I don't think he's a bad run defender either. He has the arm length and body type to do it. But then LSU did some stuff with him when they lined him up off ball and walked him up on the guard. And I was that kind of it did. I don't think he did the crossover thing that Myles Garrett did, but it was similar to what Myles Garrett. And I was like, wait a minute, like, all right, so you can move him around a little bit, find some mismatches for him. I definitely think this guy is going to be a steal for somebody, because at the end of the day, in this class, because what's been, Keith, I think we talked about this a while back. The notion was that this is a odd front edge group type of like group. It's more stand up 3-4 outside linebackers than base defensive ends. There I say, again, let's go back to his measurement, 6'4", 255. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could probably put his hand in the dirt and let him play base defensive end. And he has that size, man. I think this dude, second round, no later than third. If he falls after that, I don't know what teams are doing. This dude gets after it. And then not only that, man, just from a stat standpoint, Keith, I had his numbers pulled up. He counted for like 8 or 9 sacks last year, 8 QB hits. He had 2 forced fumbles and 43 pressures. Like, this dude it's crazy to see that stat line, that productivity, the 6'4", 255, long arms, and still yet nobody's talking about him to the level that he should be talked about. It's insane to me, man.
Yeah, DP, you wonder, and you say, why is Braden Swenson a steal? It's because of that. Nobody's talking about him. That's why he's the steal of the draft, right? But I'll tell you this, I have my top 50 rankings out in DP. I have him ranked in my top 50. I think he's that good. I think he's in the mix. And I because what I tried to do with Braden was try to rationalize. I think that's the proper way. I'm trying to add vocab to DP to the scouting thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to be more well versed, right, in what I'm doing as a person. So I'm trying to add some vocabulary there. But I tried to rationalize with myself, like, okay, why do I like him and nobody else does, right? Because sometimes you're just on the mountain by yourself. And I couldn't, honestly, it was difficult for me to come up with answers. And I was like, okay, well, maybe because it's the 1 year wonder type thing, right? Like he didn't have a lot of sack production in previous years, but also he spent a couple years at Oregon, right? Which could have been a different situation for him. He could have just been playing behind other players, right? Then the other side I looked at that was, I was like, well, we gotta have guys that haven't even been 1 year wonders, right? When we talk about the Michael Williams and the Shemar Stewarts, and you know, they haven't even had one great year, right? We just pure protection. So I couldn't even roll with that. And I just have to say, this is one of those things where, and this is where, trying to properly say this, where sometimes with, I think, the media portion of the NFL draft rolling with the hype, this is why we talk about some draft classes not being as talented, is because sometimes you have to do the research to find the good players, right? The layups aren't there. Like we feel like if the layups are there, then it's a really good class. But no, like you have to do the research and do the deep dig. I don't think a lot of people did a deep dive. And a lot of these guys that we like now were not preseason superstars, right? Like there's not a lot of transition. Like Jalen Walker might be the only guy, especially in this edge rusher group, that previously we didn't talk about before the season. We did, right? When we was at the draft with our meetings, we talked about them, but not a lot of other people were talking about them. So I think it's difficult too. And I think that's what's going on with this draft class, is that there's a lot of people that didn't meet the preseason hype, but then those guys that produced, people are just now finding out about them. But I believe Braden Swenson, he has it all. One tie-in that I was thinking about with an NFL team, I believe I'm 90% sure on this, his D-line coach left LSU, and I want to say he's the D-line coach at the Saints now. And so could he be a good spot for the Saints, right? You're talking about second or third round, them grabbing him. They need edge rush help. They've been trying to solve the edge rusher position. And if you ask me, out of all the guys that drafted in the past, whether that's Marcus Davenport, Peyton Turner, Isaiah Foskey, he has the most I know how to get there, right? Like he put it all on film. So he's a sneaky good pick. But there are quite a few teams, DP, that I think he can be a surprise still for a team, because there's not a lot of media coverage. And I think NFL fans will definitely be happy with him.
No, 100%. I think to your point with the Saints, you know, the guy that they actually signed to a multi-year deal wasn't the guy they drafted, and that was Chase Young. You know what I mean? Like, so to your point, they've missed multiple times at the edge rush position. And I think being able to get Braden Swenson's second and third round to then pair with Chase Young, for the future, to me, behind Cam Jordan, like I love that potential. Then you have Brian Brzee that you hope to take a step forward on the interior. You have Chase Young, you have Braden Swenson, and you feel like, man, like we have kind of our big three on the defensive line where we can get after Baker Mayfield, Michael Penix, Bryce Young with just four and not having the pressure guys, right? Because Bryce Young, we saw that late in the season, asked the Falcons. If he couldn't get to him, he lit them up, right? Like Christmas tree. Matter of fact, it was the end of the year, so it was right after Christmas. That was their Christmas gift. You're not going to the playoffs, Falcons. You know what I mean? And like Bryce Young was able to do. We see what Baker Mayfield has been able to do in Tampa Bay. And Michael Penix showcasing his flashes back towards the end of the year. I think with Braden Swenson and the lack of media coverage, Keith, I think the moment Harold Perkins went down, people checked out of that defense. It was like, oh, well, I got no reason to watch the defense.
That's to my point, right? The preseason guys, and then they're not being, right, the guys that's in the draft for the postseason that people haven't recalibrated or went and did the deep dive and homework on them.
And I know, I think I saw a post that Braden Swenson was taking a visit to Buffalo. You know, Buffalo has needs at the edge position, right? They let go of, they brought in Joey Bosa, who's, hasn't been the same Joey Bosa, as of late as he gotten a little bit older. They let go of Von Miller to save some cap. I think Braden Swenson with Gregory Rousseau and Ed Oliver. I'm blanking on my guy from Duke they drafted last year on the interior defensive line, but like having, just having that type of rotation, that type of talent in the on that defensive line, I at the end of the day, man, he's going to be a steal. People need to talk about him more, because when you turn on the tape and you watch him, whether it was South Carolina, Missouri, it didn't really matter. You watch him and he's getting after the quarterback every single game that he's playing. And to your point, the whole 1 year wonder thing, some people really do hit prospects over the head with that. Like, oh, you're only a 1 year wonder. And it was like, all right, man. I hear you, but let's look into the context of what happened. He may have been behind some talented rushers at Oregon that they played the seniority. Keith, you've been in college. You know how certain coaching staffs play with the seniority thing, right? Because I'm gonna be honest, we can't sit there and hold that to Braden Swenson and be like, well, he's only a 1 year wonder. And then we look at Tyler Warren and he's a top 10 player in the draft, and he was behind Theo Johnson. You know what I mean? The last couple years. So I think this guy gonna be a steal, and somebody's gonna be very, very happy. I don't know if you caught any of the WNBA draft, and I was watching that the other night, and I loved the shots in the war room when they made their pick, and they were happy about it. Like, these are the people this is the girl we want. This is the young lady we want on the team. That's gonna be somebody's team in the war room when Braden Swenson comes off the board in day 2. I'm like, yep. We got us one. I'll never forget the one, Keith. I don't know if you ever saw the clip when the I think was it the Vikings? Yes, it was the Vikings old GM talked about how when the Eagles selected Jalen Reagor in front of Justin Jefferson, and they said they basically laughed. They all laughed in the war room. It was like, thank you. Like, I don't know what the thought process was, but they laughed about it. It was like somebody's going to be laughing at the other teams that let Braden Swenson fall to him.
Yeah, I'll say this. Maybe the Vikings shouldn't have laughed at Howie Roseman because he's been on a run ever since, right? They should have let the sleeping bear lie on that one. But DP, let's keep this thing going, man. We have another edge rusher to talk about. That's the guy. Could he be edge one? But the question is, we're talking about Shemar Stewart. The question is, should he be ranked a top 20 pick? Is it all hype? Is it production based? Is it projection? I'm sorry. We're gonna talk about all that and more with Shemar Stewart, the Texas A&M edge rusher, coming up next.
Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV locked on to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube, 3rd Gen. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout for being our every dayers is Texas A&M's versatile freak athlete, 6'5", 280, 290, sub 4.6 in the 40. Shemar Stewart, should he be viewed as a lock, as a top 20 prospect in this draft class, Keith? This is an interesting thing because I think we talked about with T-Mac, with Tetairoa McMillan. It's such a pendulum with him, but it's a pendulum with Shemar because you have a section of fans are like, man, I'm buying into the traits. I want this guy on my team. He's explosive, things of that nature. Then you get the fans, like I tell you right now, Panther fans don't want no part of him. They want no parts of Shemar Stewart because they're like, listen, we need to hit on the edge rusher. We can't take anybody that's not proven. We need a guy that can get after the quarterback. Where are you on Shemar Stewart? Like, should he be viewed as a top 20 prospect in this class?
DP, that's such a tough question. That is such a tough question because I think it comes down to what is the definition of top prospect, right? Like, what is the definition? Is it somebody that you're projecting to be well, or is it somebody that's done it and has earned it, right? And people that have been listening to this podcast, I'm heavy on the side of, you got to show me for me to buy in, baby. I need to see the blueprint. I need to see the business plans. I'm going to ask you, what's your revenue, right? Like, I need to see sales. I need to see all that stuff before I buy into a company, DP. And I look at it like that, and I can't play the fence, right?
Nope.
I was going to say almost. I was going to say kind of. I'm going to say no. gonna say no because of this. I have to stick to what I believe, right? And that's the showing me the prospect. I say there's a guy that has done it. Now, do I understand the upside with him? Of course, 100%. He's what, 6'5", 270 pounds, ran a 4.5, 4.6, jumped out the gym. I understand the prospects part of it. The part that worried me is this, that because everybody talks about Danielle Hunter, right? When we say, oh, a guy that had little sack production, and there was a Danielle Hunter. For every Danielle Hunter DP, there's 5 guys that didn't make it, right? Maybe 10, right? And when you look at just in these past couple drafts, when you look at Tyree Wilson, everybody projected that forward. When you look at Lucas Van Ness, everybody projected that forward. When you look at Cleveland Farrell, everybody projected that forward. And I can go down the list of just edge rushers that had kind of traits, right, that just simply didn't work out, right? And it's just tough to do that. Marcus Davenport was another guy, and I think he had sack production, but it was projecting him forward with as far as, him from one playing what he was in, was that Conference USA or UTSA, I believe, and just projecting him forward. So that's the part, DP, that worries me is anytime we get into just solely projecting and saying, hey, a guy can do it. I'm fine with being wrong if I could cut the film on and just say, hey, the guy, he didn't do it in college. So I'm not projecting him to flat out do it. So I'm gonna say he's right outside the top 20 for me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Keith. Looking at his profile to come out what he weighed in, I'm not surprised he ran with as fast as he did. He came in at 267, so he's not even he wasn't even at his playing weight of like 280, 290 running that. So still a great time, still an outstanding athlete. But it's like, okay, well, are we going to play you at 280, 290? Are you going to stay at 265, 270? Like that's going to be a interesting talking point with when it comes down to him once we get in the training camp and get prepping for preseason and things like that. The get off is there, the strength is there, the long arm, everything physically is there. And for me, it's more so the process needs revamping. Like he gets to the backfield and there's almost at times like a bull in the china shop where you remember the first day of the Senior Bowl, right? Like 101s, he's out there just trying to bull rush guys and the guys are just anchoring. And it's like, you cannot go into the NFL thinking I'm bigger and stronger than the next guy. Like that, these are grown men. Like you have to give them everything to think about. You gotta give them the inside move, the outside rush, the speed, the explosiveness, then the power, right? So I'm with you. He's outside the top 20 for me because there is a lot of projection to go with him. Can you and I think it's going to be determined. His success is going to be determined. Number one, how hard he works in the offseason. Does he have his own personal pass rush coach like BT Jordan or guys like that? Listen, a lot of these guys go when Von Miller calls about that pass rush summit, go. You know what I mean? You got Max Crosby, some of the best minds and best edge rushers in the league out there, like teaching the game. Go. You know what I mean? But for me, I just look at him and say, can you, as a coaching staff, you got to get his hands to be weapons. Like your weapon can't just be the athleticism and running around the arc or running speed the power through a guy. If he can start adding the counters, the double hand swipes, the stab and rip, and different things, the club, all these different things. If he can add just a couple of those moves into his repertoire, Keith, to where because you tell me if you've seen this when you watch him on tape. I feel like he doesn't know what he's gonna do. Like on the play, like it's just like
we just talked about this. Yeah, we just talked about this in one of our staff meetings, DP. And that was my thing. I was like, I'm not saying IQ from is he smart enough, right? It's more instincts, right? Like it seems like everything is a half second to a second later than what it's supposed to be. And unfortunately, I can't project that too. You kind of get what I'm saying? Like I can't project that, okay, cool, the instincts are going to come, that part is going to come too. So it's extremely difficult. And then obviously Texas A&M, they muddy the evaluation because they got them playing 10 different positions, right?
Bro, he had him at zero tech one play. I was like, what? I was like, wait, I was looking for number 4 in the back, and then I looked down, I was like, is he at nose? I was like,
yeah, at some point,
Texas A&M.
Yeah, at some point it's like, what are we doing, right? Like
this is overkill.
This is from the perspective of like, why you just don't put the D tackle there, right? Like, why I got to be the edge rusher? Like, leave him at his spot.
Walter Nolan. Like, why does this keep happening? Like, you got these sub 300 guys playing zero tech and the 310 guys playing five. It
anything.
was like,
Yeah.
you know, reverse these roles so we can really see what these guys are made of, man. It's definitely weird, man. He's a good player. I think the profile's there, Keith. I think we laid it out well. It's just like I said, I'm with you. You know, I'm a ceiling guy, Keith. I want guys to be able to shatter the roof, but you got to kind of show me something for me to. I feel the same way about Michael. Like I see all the tools there. There's some flashes, but it's like, yeah, I'm projecting more than I feel like I should be in this situation.
Yep. And I'll say the other side of that, DP, because I talked about the guys who we've had question marks that went high in the first round, right? But the guys who've had production out of college, I mean, they've hit the ground running, right? When you talk about Jared Verse from last year, then you talk about in 2022, that mix of Trayvon Walker, Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau, Jermaine Johnson, like all of those guys had production in college, right? Yeah. Then you get into the Jalen Phillips, the Kwity Paye, right? Like that combination. Then you get into Chase Young. So it's I feel like I'd rather bet on the guys that show me in college already. And I don't think that just means that for me, Shemar Stewart is probably more in the 25 to 30 bucket, where I understand teams taking him in the back end of the first round and saying, you know what, we're going to bet on some traits and see if we can figure.
He's a Philadelphia Eagle, Keith. That's what he is. He's a
100%.
Philadelphia Eagle.
100%. Well, DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listener is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. Like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow me on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. To get the latest episode as soon as it is available, guys. The next time you hear our voices on Monday, it'll be draft week. It'll be officially the week of the 2025 NFL draft. So we have a lot more content. We're going to drop our last mock draft, I guess, you know, on Monday, kind of talking about what we believe could happen, maybe our predictive mock. We'll get into that. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.